Realm presents Dead Air, Episode 6.
1. While the Reddit board cooks away on the issue of the Order of St. Franklin, I make plans for my prison visit. The last time was unnerving, but this time it's different. This time, he asked me. I know what to expect, and I can plan accordingly. But most important, our supposed killer wants to talk. Why would he do that if he didn't have something important he wanted to say? Something that, I hope, will break this case wide open. Funny that I'm thinking of Peg's death as a case now, but there it is. There are too many unanswered questions, too many loose threads and weird elements. The police, true to form in a case where a confession was offered on a silver platter, didn't dig very deep, or they'd have started uncovering all the worms under the rocks just like I have. If Brandon's confession comes apart, the cops are going to have a lot of hard questions to answer. And the work I've done might just serve as the starting point for a real investigation. I don't know if that's what Ryan wanted when he got me started on this, but what he wants no longer matters. He's part of the problem. It's early morning, and I'm still in bed watching the shadows of branches and leaves across the ceiling, moving in the low wind. Kara's dead asleep because I don't hear the coffee machine running yet. I roll over on my side and close my eyes. I really should get more rest. But that only lasts for a few seconds before I sigh, sit up, and drag my laptop over. Pillows propped against the headboard make a good office chair, and I start my morning search. I'm starting with just a single name, Travis Holcomb. Delilah's notes have been haunting me, and I can't stop thinking about how he's the intersection of the Peg Graham case and my cousin's death. All these old money families are intertwined, socially, economically, politically. Maybe they're connected in more sinister ways, too. I never really looked very hard at Travis when Delilah died, even though I knew he was a casual drug user. But now, with the info about the Order of St. Franklin, it could mean a whole lot more. I knew I didn't like him, which was a large part of the reason I declined the party that night and left her on her own. She'd clearly felt like she needed backup, and I'd been selfish when she needed me most. When the police reported that there was no sign of anyone else in the hotel room where they found her, and she'd checked in all on her own, with her own credit card, I'd forgotten about Travis and obsessed about why. Why would Delilah shoot up alone in a hotel room? When did she start using drugs, and how did I not see it? Or was it never her choice to take those drugs? Maybe Travis Holcomb has the answer. I type his name into an image search and pause at a picture of a pinch-waisted woman on a grand staircase. I recognize the staircase from Dick Carlisle's alibi photo. A wing of the Holcomb family must have hosted the Order of St. Franklin party the night of Peg's death. Another intersection. "You're in this," I whisper to the photo of Travis that comes up next. In still pictures, he looks like a model. Perfect hair, perfect tan, dressed like a Burberry mannequin. No sign of the drinking or the drugs. Not yet, anyway. You know something, and I'm gonna find out what it is. I do feel a twinge of guilt that I've strayed from my mission, which is Peg. It has to be Peg. But I justify it by telling myself that Peg, Delilah, the Order of St. Franklin, surely it all ties together somewhere, even if I have a personal grudge against Travis. When I flip back to the text search, I idly page through results and ignore all the obvious entries from society publications until on about page 12, I stumble upon what is obviously some kind of blog entry. The teaser mentions Travis's name, and I click. It's gone. 4-0 forward. I frown and click back to the results. I can't glean much from the snippet that's shown, except that whoever wrote this wasn't happy with Travis. I copy the blog address and paste it into a new page, then delete the specific entry information and hope for the best. I get a hot pink page with animated sparkles and a glittering header that says, screams really, Sloane's Happy Place. There's a pic of Sloane, and I vaguely recognize her from UK. Maybe in one of my sophomore classes? I'm not sure. There isn't much on her blog, which seems to have gone silent a year back, more or less, but there's a link to her Instagram. The most recent photo is from about 6 months after the last blog post. I'm struck by the change it shows in her. I flip back to her blog and look at the pouty selfie she took for her homepage. There, she looks like a spoiled girl of 19 or 20 with way too much smoke in her smoky eye look. When I flip to the latest Instagram photo, I hardly recognize her. She looks leaner, harder somehow, and in almost every picture, her pupils are abnormally wide. She doesn't look 20 or 21. She looks 30. I scroll through and it's like watching a movie in reverse. The spoiled softness returns, and I feel a twinge of mourning for the pouty selfie girl who was into posting designer clothes, shoes, coats, purses, jewelry. Sloane, of course, doesn't have her full name on anything, and I'm hardly on her friends list. I find her by reverse image searching until I come across a shot taken at a party 2 years ago. Her on the arm of Travis Holcomb, both laughing drunkenly at something another frat type is saying. They're clutching glasses, not beer bottles or plastic cups, and they're dressed for a fancy party. Sloane Amherst Wilson, according to the tag, which is from one of the Internet Society pages. I look Sloane up on one of those shady pay $20 to get an address websites and find that she's living just a half-mile away from me, which is surprising, bordering on shocking. An Amherst Wilson ought to be on the family estate or set up in some beautiful, spacious downtown apartment, not in the grubby apartments nearby. I'd like to think that maybe she's just frugal, but one look at the Insta tells me she didn't suddenly adopt a social justice attitude to go with that Proenza schooler bag. Something's up with Sloane, and I suddenly want to know what she wrote about Travis and why the hell she deleted it. The sun's up by then, and I roll out of bed, grab the bathroom while Kara's still comatose, and make myself look upscale with loose curls and appropriate makeup. I don't have a lot of designer in my wardrobe, so I stick with comfortable jeans, good shoes, and a trendy cashmere cardigan that I scored from a wealthy garage sale not long ago. I have exactly one designer purse, same garage sale, and I loaded it up. It's 2 seasons old, but it'll pass. With understated jewelry, I look rich, but relaxed. While I'm starting the pot of coffee, Kara stumbles out of her bedroom, yawning and making her bedhead worse by trying to finger comb it. She blinks at me and says, "Is that coffee?" "It will be." "Are you fancy?" "Maybe." "Is it the apocalypse?" "Only if the coffee machine breaks." The first cup's ready, and I pass it to her. She seems grateful. I put my cup in place and start it up again. "Hey," Kara says, You're not into anything weird these days, are you? I mean, you're running with a different crowd and... You mean Ryan?" She arches her eyebrows and sips. "Hottie McRichpants? Obviously." "I'm not running with him. I'm just..." I sigh. "Okay, I'm gonna tell you something, but I need you to keep it secret, okay?" I sigh again and tell her about the radio show, the box of horseshoes sent to the radio station, getting thrown off the air, and the new podcast. By the time I'm done, her eyes are wide awake, and she sets her coffee down. I kind of expect her to tell me how impressed she is, because this is so very far from Macy. "You're an idiot," she says. I blink. "What? You don't think this is going to be trouble? Macy, what are you getting us into?" "I'm not getting us into anything. Hell, you aren't. I live here too, you know." She's glaring now, and I realize with a sinking feeling that she's right. The newspaper reporter already got my full name and our apartment address from Reddit before the mod took it down. I just bought a girl's address for $20. I'd be ridiculously easy to find. "You're digging around in shit that you don't understand, and you don't know what's going to come out of it. But I'll tell you this, I don't want any part of it." "Kara, no, I don't want to hear about any of it. And if trouble shows up, don't say I didn't warn you." She takes a beat and then says, Is this why the cops are hanging around all the time? Cops? She flings a scorching look at me. Whatever. She takes her coffee, marches to her room, and slams the door. It only takes me a second to realize that she's noticed the lurking police cars, too. Not my imagination, after all. I stand rooted to the spot for several long minutes before I realize that my coffee's done and starting to cool off, and I pour it into a go-cup. I knock on her door on the way out and say, "Lock the deadbolt." I get no answer, but I think, for once, she might actually do what I say. 2. Sloane's apartment complex is worse than mine. There's a pool, but it looks janky, and the paint on the trim of the buildings has gone beyond faded into lifeless. Not much in the way of landscaping, just some grass that's burned straw-colored where it isn't shaded. The planters that might have once held nice flowers now hold discarded gum wrappers and cigarette butts. It isn't a place I'd expect to find the girl from the earlier posts on Instagram, who was clearly used to the finer things in life. But I check the row of ground-floor mailboxes and find her last name, and then head up the stairs to the third-floor landing. There are 3 doors at the top, with 0 helpful markers like Unit A, B, or C. I start on the left for no particular reason and get no answer. I try the center door and get an old lady with suspicious gray eyes who tells me to go away before she slams it. Living here has trained the Southern hospitality right out of her. I turn to the last door and give it a knock. I think I hear a shuffling inside, so I knock again, louder, and on my 3rd try, it opens. Sloane stands there. She has a faded dye job, coming in brown at the roots. She's wearing clothes that not only aren't designer, but they aren't even mid-level brand. If that isn't a Walmart shirt, I'll turn in my fashion card. "What?" she snaps. "I was just on my way to work." She slings the strap of a cheap purse over her shoulder. It's a lot to take in, and I have to abandon my prepared approach completely. "Hi, I'm Macy Walker." "Okay," Sloane says, "and?" Good question. I get the sense that this young woman doesn't have the time for bullshit, and what the hell, neither do I. I dig my recorder out of my pocket and show it to her. "I'm working on background for a podcast I'm doing," I tell her. "I was hoping you might be willing to talk to me. I can buy you breakfast if you want." Sloane says nothing for a moment. I look at her pupils, which are pitch black and enormous. "What the hell," she says. "If you're buying, sure." She's not so high that she doesn't lock up the apartment securely before leading me downstairs. She glances around as if she's looking for a car to match my outfit. Yeah, I'm over here," I tell her, and lead her to my not exactly trendy vehicle. I see a little downturn in her mouth, so the old Sloane's still lurking in there somewhere, but she slips into the passenger seat, and in a few seconds we're heading out. "Any particular place you'd like to go?" "Doodles," she says, almost before I get the question out. "You know where it is?" "Sure." I aim the car that direction and hold up the recorder. "Mind if I use this while I drive, since I can't take notes?" "What's this about exactly?" she asks, and I remember her missing post about Travis. Was she told to take it down? Maybe paid to take it down? I go with my instinct, click on the recorder, and say, "It's about Travis Holcomb. I know you used to date him." "Shit." She doesn't say it angrily, just in a kind of resigned way, and she turns and stares out the car window at the passing street. "So what?" I'm careful with this next part. I need to establish some empathy. "Sloane, are you doing okay? I mean, the apartment." "You mean, what's a girl like me doing in a place like that?" She laughs, and it sounds a little amused, and also a little broken. "Yeah, fabulous question, Macy Walker. What am I doing there? I wish I knew." She takes in a deep breath and turns to face me. "But the answer is probably Travis Holcomb." When she starts talking, it comes in a trickle, then in a rush, and she hardly pauses when we park the car, go inside Doodles, order coffee and beignets. She stops to bite and swallow, but other than that, I hardly have to deliver a nod or a quiet to prime the pump. Travis Holcomb introduced her to pills. It started at a party, as most things do, good or bad. The hosts were passing around bowls full of donated meds. You just grabbed something and took it. I'm way too cautious for something like that, even before Delilah, but apparently Sloane Amherst Wilson was not. She picked a big, chunky white pill. Even now, she can describe it perfectly, down to the markings on the surface. She remembers it the way people remember meeting their soulmate. "It was Oxy, of course," she says as she stirs more milk into her coffee and reaches for another beignet. "Lots of Oxy at that party. Some fentanyl patches, but I didn't get to those. They went fast. Travis showed me how to crush up the Oxy and snort it for a rush, and once I did that, it was like my world melted into butter. The best I've felt in my life." She gives me a guilty little look. "Maybe I should have told you it started with a back injury. That's what people say mostly, right? Whether it's true or not." "I'm not here to judge," I tell her. "You tell me what you need to tell me. I'll listen." She eats the beignet and licks powdered sugar from her fingers. "Sure. Anyway, it isn't true, you know. This thing the media likes to say about how we get addicted, and the next thing you know, we're wandering alleys and hooking for a fix, trading blowjobs for drugs. That isn't how this works. I know lots of addicts, way more than you'd expect. Most of them have jobs and families, and they just sort of maintain." "But not you," I say quietly. "You didn't maintain?" "Trav wasn't delivering when I needed it, so I went to somebody else, somebody from school, and next thing you know, I'm doing 3 or 4 times what I was, because their shit is way stronger, and it makes me feel way better. I ran through my cash, ran up my credit cards. Then Mom and Dad stepped in and told me that if I didn't go to rehab, I was cut off. So I went. But honestly, that place was just a waste of time and money, and I was back on Oxy within a week." She shrugs. "After that, they cut me off. Told me if I loved my drugs so much, to get a job to pay for them. I did. Had to leave school, economize, sell all my shit. But this works. I make a couple of $1,000 a month. I can pay rent at that shit place, and put gas in my shit car, and eat steady. I know where to get my stuff from a trusted source, so I'm not getting sold crap cut with poison. See, I'm maintaining. I'm not out there robbing old ladies for a fix." I think about those horse races of the early days, drugged up and running their hearts out until their hearts stopped. Is it still Oxy? I can tell she's not going to answer, so I rephrase. "Sloane, why are you so angry with Travis? Did he get you hooked on heroin?" "Like Delilah, I think, but don't say." "Travis? Shit, no. He likes pills. As far as I know, he's never even snorted heroin. He's not super smart, but he's careful." Disappointment hits like a hammer. "Have you ever seen him with heroin, though?" "Travis isn't a dealer, if that's where you're going," Sloane says. "He's too stupid to be one, not to mention too lazy. He's just a party boy, and when I stopped being fun, he found another party to go to." Her mouth tightens, and I see fine lines around the edges. That fresh, fashion-obsessed girl from last year? Long gone. "The last time I talked to him, he told me to get help, so his heart's in the right place, I guess. But it isn't like he offered to pay for it either. I don't think he likes being reminded what can happen." If she's really bothered by being someone else's cautionary tale, it doesn't show. Maybe she's right. Maybe the story really isn't party girl gets addicted, is destroyed, but the number of people out there functioning as addicts without ending up on the nightly news. So why wasn't that Delilah's story? Why did hers have to end with her dead in a hotel room? I take a sip of coffee before I make the last plunge. "Did you know my cousin, Delilah Jones? She dated Travis after you." I kind of expect some resentment to flare, but all I get is another shrug. The Walmart blouse gaps a little at the buttons, revealing a very nice bra she probably hadn't been able to sell off. I met her a couple of times. She seemed okay. Bright, you know? Way too smart to be with Travis. Why? Did he get her on pills too? Not that I know, I say. It's a good question. Did Delilah have a secret pill habit? The police hadn't found anything, but then they hadn't looked hard, or really at all. She died of a heroin overdose, fentanyl-laced. Huh. Sloane takes a moment to think it over. Did she snort it? No, shot it. Toes? Arm. Sloane shakes her head. No way. Our crowd, that's not how this starts. College girl like that, she wouldn't want to have needle marks. It's hot here. Can't wear long sleeves all the time. It's incredibly practical as an analysis, and I realize I've never thought of it before. Snorting is more efficient and doesn't leave a mark. But if you're going to stage an overdose scene, it's what we always see in the movies. A junkie dead, needle hanging out of their arm. It plays to expectations. I've never seen the crime scene pictures. I never wanted to. But now I realize that I'm going to have to, and the thought makes me feel sweaty and sick to my stomach. I don't know why. I've imagined the scene often enough, but there's a huge difference between imagining and cold, hard reality. I don't want to see Delilah like that, so alone and pathetic. I want to remember her laughing. I need to remember her that way. But I know I have to do it, however sick I feel. If Sloane's practical analysis is right, the cops have missed something huge, and my cousin might not have overdosed at all. I dropped Sloane at her day job, which, to my continued education, isn't a strip club or sleazy XXX adult store, but a plain old small construction office where she works as a bookkeeper. She's right that I don't know how addiction works, but I'm starting to understand that I've been sold a media narrative, and the reality is something I'm only just starting to unpack. I'm a little surprised that I like Sloane. Maybe it's just because there's some experience there. She's reflective, thoughtful. She understands how she got where she is, and that's far more interesting to me than the shallow, glossy girl with her $5,000 purse. Maybe I have the instincts of a reporter after all. Buoyed by that idea, I head back to the police station. The atmosphere is intense, focused and busy as usual. I ignore the woman at the front desk while she ignores me in favor of multiple phone calls, and I wait until I spot Officer Letitia Matthews. As before, she looks crisply turned out in her uniform, with her hair up in a tightly braided bun at the back of her head. She's chatting with someone else near the coffee machine, and as she turns with her cup and heads back to her desk, she spots me and changes course. I don't even have to wave. "Macy," she says, and reaches down to pull a visitor badge from a bin behind the desk. She logs it with my name and the date and time and buzzes me through the door. This time, I get to enter the sanctum. Not gonna lie, it feels pretty unnerving and thrilling at the same time, and I perch nervously on the chair by her desk. I can't help thinking about all the other people who are bound to have taken this seat. Criminals, witnesses, victims, people who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. This chair has history. I have an impulse to stand up, but I manage to conquer it, and when Matthews offers me a cup of coffee, I quickly shake my head and tell her I've had plenty. I've had too much. I feel my nerves sizzle like water on a hot stove. "Okay," she says, and leans back with her own cup. "I don't have anything else for you right now from the Graham murder, if that's what you're looking for." "This is something else," I say, and realize I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. I can back away and leave, or jump. I jump. "My cousin died last year of a heroin overdose," I tell her, all in a rush. "Delilah Jones." Officer Matthews just keeps watching me without expression. I'd like to see that file, too." "What are you looking for?" I swallow, and the strong taste of coffee that still lingers makes me feel faintly sick. They called it an accidental overdose, bad heroin, but I'm starting to doubt that. Matthews leans forward in her chair, but she doesn't get to work, doesn't make notes, doesn't fill out any papers. She just looks at me.
Why are you doubting it?
Because nothing I have right now is anything like real evidence, and I know she doesn't want to hear speculation. Because she was with someone else that night and ended up alone in a hotel room, dead, and her cell phone is still missing. She had no prior history with drugs.
You realize that all the investigating officers would have tracked her movements, right? Questioned people she was with?
Yes, but where's her cell phone?
People with drug addictions sell things, Matthews says. Lose them, trade them for a fix. Could be that phone's in the possession of her dealer now, or resold to somebody else. Happens a lot. I'm sorry, Macy, but just because you didn't know about her drug problem doesn't mean she didn't have one.
That's all plausible, but I keep pushing. I'd like to be sure, you know? Because right now, it doesn't quite add up. If I could see the file... She sighs and opens a drawer, pulls out a form, and hands it over.
Fill in the request. But Macy, this isn't the Graham file. It's not 18 years old. It's fresh, and it's personal. It's gonna hurt. This isn't TV. Not every mystery can be solved.
I nod, and my eyes fill with tears as I grip the paper. I don't want to look at Delilah's dead face, her lifeless body. I don't want to see her like that. It was bad enough seeing her composed and perfect in her coffin. I need to know, I say in a small voice. I don't sound like a reporter. I sound like a lost kid, and I hate myself for that. Matthew says nothing for a long moment, then takes the paper out of my hand and puts it down on her desk.
Look, she says, let me look the file over. If I see something that makes my radar go off, I'll let you know. You can always request it later.
Her cell phone.
I can check if they ever tracked it. They probably did. They'd have used the tower pings to trace her activities on the night of her death. I can find out where it last registered.
After Delilah's death, I'd texted that number 100 times, called it, never got an answer. Then, a month or two later, I'd started getting number out of service messages. If it was still on during that time, maybe there's a chance of finding out who had it. And who else was in that hotel room. It'd be easy to blame Travis, but after hearing Sloan, I'm inclined to think he's too sloppy to set up that flawless a scene and not drop his ID card on the way out. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's someone I can find and put behind bars where they belong. Thank you, I tell her. One more thing. She doesn't seem that excited.
Okay, what?
Am I being followed? Watched by the police? That makes her go quiet and still, but she doesn't blink. I can't tell what she's thinking. When she wants to use it, she has a great cop face.
What makes you ask that?
Police cruisers parked outside my apartment at all hours.
You understand that paranoid people notice unrelated details and put them together in the wrong way, right? Maybe that spot outside your apartment's nothing but a good place to wait for calls. Maybe you're seeing cruisers now that you ignored before.
It sounds reasonable, but I press anyway. Could you find out? She shrugs. I feel a little tingle of doubt creeping in, not for the first time. Officer Matthews could know all about what I'm seeing. She might have even arranged it herself. Maybe you are being paranoid, Macy. I check my watch. I've got to go.
Macy.
I'm in the act of standing up, but I sink down again. There's something sharp about her tone that makes me take it seriously.
You leave this alone for now. If there's something there, amateur digging's gonna bury it. You get me?
I nod. I get you. I'm still working on Peg's case anyway.
Yeah? How's that going?
It's interesting.
Sure is.
She flashed me a brief smile.
I'm listening to the podcast.
Really? This feels a little chilling. Do you...
It's good. I'm into it. Just watch your back, though.
The open office here isn't too busy at the moment, but there are uniformed officers walking around or sitting at computers and detectives huddling together at one end. I pause for a second to consider something I haven't before, that I don't know who might be listening to me here. Do you think anybody else?
I'm not talking about it, and I'm not asking either, she says. You keep it low, Macy, and you'll do all right. Don't make yourself a target, okay?
Okay, I say. I feel oddly exposed now. Thanks. When I get up to leave, she doesn't stop me. I turn in my visitor badge at the desk and walk outside. The heat and humidity hit me in a thick wave. I stand for a moment in the sun, drinking in the warmth before I walk to my car and head back home. 3. There's a message from Mom on the answering machine asking about a gift for Dad's birthday. I don't know why she's asking me. I don't have any ideas either. I'm about to call her back when a text buzzes my phone. I see the name and automatically swipe through to read the message. It's from Ryan, and he's asking me if everything's okay. I don't reply, and in 30 seconds or so, another text from him appears.
Any progress on the case?
My head knows I can't trust him, not anymore. But at the same time, I can't ignore him. The sight of his name on the screen makes my skin go warm, my lips part. I can't stop the flashes of memory of the way he kissed me at the Derby, the way he looked at me with such clarity. But I need to ignore him. Surely I have enough willpower to do that. I even put the phone down for a minute, get some water, and chug half the bottle. But then I pick up the phone and text him back. Maybe, still working on it. I tell myself that I'm just keeping him off my back, that's all. Best lead is, Brandon wants to talk again.
Wow.
Yeah, might be important. Or not.
Maybe he's lonely.
If I wasn't still wary of him, I'd have texted back, I know how he feels. The words flit through my head and my fingers twitch, but then a second later I feel the anger hit harder than the temptation. He knows Travis. He was at a party with Delilah the night she died, and he never told me. I can't trust him, and I won't trust him. While I'm thinking how to keep him talking, to find out what he knows about Travis and Delilah, my phone rings. I glance down and see the name of the mailing store where I opened up the P.O. box for my dead air correspondence. I wonder briefly if there's something wrong with my credit card, but there's no point in fidgeting. I answer. Hi, says the young woman on the other end. You might want to stop in today. Somebody dropped off something for you and, well, it's kind of perishable. She sounds coy, like it's a secret. Perishable? I repeat. Like food? Nope. God, she sounds smug. Just come on in, okay? Okay, I say, but too late. She's already off the call, and I'm left with a little mystery to think about as I make my lunch and check the Reddit boards to see what's up. There are a ton of posts, enough that I'd get lost in them if I started reading. I glance at the list of questions I've started writing down in preparation for my upcoming visit with Brandon McDonnell, and I hastily write down 2 more I've come up with before I forget as I wolf down my soup. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Ryan again. I ignore it, put my bowl in the sink, and head out for the mailing place. I want to put it off, but truth is, the sooner I get it done, the sooner I can concentrate on the really important things, like figuring out how to approach Ryan about Delilah and Travis, and prepping for Brandon's interview. 4. There are 3 or 4 customers in line, but I wait my turn after I check my small mailbox. I have a few pieces of written correspondence, all letters it looks like. I pocket those, and when my turn comes, a woman behind the counter brightens up, winks, and goes out of sight for a moment. She comes back with flowers. A vase full of small white flowers on long stems, with a florist's pointy plastic stick holding a note buried deep inside the arrangement. It looks like someone sent me a bouquet made entirely of baby's breath, only the flowers aren't quite right for that. Wow, I say, mystified. Wow, she agrees. So, secret admirer? If it is, he's got weird taste in arrangements, I say. Well, there used to be a whole language to flower arrangements. Every flower meant something. I don't know what these mean, though. She raises her eyebrows as if she expects me to whip the card out and tell her what's up. I don't. I thank her and take the arrangement back to the car. I make it stable on the passenger seat as best I can, which mostly involves barricading it with my purse and holding it at stoplights, and head home. I kick the door shut as I carry it to the kitchen counter. After I set it down, I go back to flip the deadbolt again, then pull out the card. It says, in plain printing, "Stop what you're doing. We're watching you." The words send a lightning bolt up my spine, and I almost drop the note. What the hell? Is it from Ryan? From Ryan's dad or grandfather? Who would send this to me? There's no signature, and now that I look, no florist's name either. The envelope the card came in is just plain white. The vase is plain, too, dollar store stuff. I pull one of the flowers out to take a closer look and sniff it. Musty, like an old, closed-up room, with a weird hint of animal about it. Not a flower people use in arrangements much, if ever. The stems are smooth and green, and the flowers cluster in overlapping groups of small white petals. I've seen these before, but I can't place them. It's recent, though. While I'm thinking about it, I turn the flower in my left hand, staring at the pattern of the petals and how the flowers attach to the stem, and something starts to happen. My fingers begin to tingle. I don't realize it immediately, but the feeling keeps building, and by the time I realize that I should drop the flower, the buzzing is intense, and I rush to the sink and wash my hands thoroughly. The pads of my fingers that rested against the stem feel numb. I grab a paper towel, take the flower off the counter, and wrap it up like a burrito. Then I put on disposable latex gloves that we keep under the sink for icky jobs and pull the flowers out of the vase and dump them into the trash. The water goes down the sink, and I add the vase to the trash bag, then put the gloves in after and grab my keys. I take the whole garbage bag to the apartment complex dumpster and heave it in while I hold my breath against the always gag-worthy stench. I hear the bag hit bottom with a muffled sound of glass breaking, and I almost run back to the apartment. My breath is coming short, but I don't think that's anything to worry about. I'm more worried about the tingling in my hand, even though it's starting to calm down now. I deadbolt the door once I'm back inside. Just to be safe, I wash my hands again. Then I wrap the paper towel-draped flower into a layer of foil and take it into my room. I take a photo of the flower, careful not to touch it again, and then I upload it and do a reverse image search. Queen Anne's lace, which looks almost like what's in front of me. And then, next to it, the exact match. It's hemlock. The flowers are all hemlock. Poison. Someone sent me a vase full of poisonous flowers. I roll back from the computer and click the link, which takes me to a page that talks about the plant. I stare at the information, which says that all parts of the plant are poisonous and prolonged skin contact can absorb the poison. I frantically check for symptoms: dilation of the pupils, dizziness and trembling, shortness of breath, numbness and tingling, paralysis, death by failure of the respiratory system. Holy shit! I've been poisoned! I grab the wrapped flower, my purse and keys, and get to my car as fast as I can. I call the store on the way there and tell the clerk to wash her hands thoroughly and ask her if she's feeling ill. She says she isn't, but she sounds concerned. Who brought them in? I ask her. One of those moped delivery guys, she says. He never took his helmet off. I have no idea who he was. Why? Is something wrong? It's hemlock, I tell her. It's poisonous. Just go to your doctor, just to be safe, okay? She sounds scared now. Okay, but who'd do that? Why? I don't know, I tell her. I can almost grab the information, but it keeps slipping away. I don't know. 5. The emergency room isn't too busy, and I get seen immediately when I explain my problem and show them the flower. That leaves me with hours of waiting while they draw blood and put me on monitors. I don't have seizures, which they tell me is a very good thing. The tingling slowly fades, and feeling starts to come back into my fingers. I've saved myself real trouble, apparently, by disposing of the flowers and washing my hands thoroughly. I don't have nausea, which they tell me is also a good sign that I haven't gotten a dangerous dose of the stuff. When I'm asked where I came into contact with the flowers, I start to tell the truth, but then I pause. I've already thrown out the evidence, and I'd guess that whoever did deliver the flowers would have worn protective gloves, so no fingerprints. But I'd rather do this on my own than have beat cops doubting me and concluding, as they so often do, that I'm some attention seeker. I mean, it is a wild story that somebody delivered me a bouquet of poisonous flowers. It sounds ridiculous. So I make up a story about hiking. I'm instructed by the doctor to tell the park rangers where I found the hemlock so it won't pose a danger to others. The ER doesn't even give me any meds since I didn't ingest anything. I'm out by dark and heading home when the full weight of what's happened finally hits me, and hard enough that I pull over to the side of the road, turn off the engine, and shiver for a few long minutes. This was personal. They meant it to hurt, or at least to scare the shit out of me. Well, mission accomplished. I'm scared. I'm also furious. Not just on my own behalf, but for the clerk at the store. What if she'd handled them and ended up collapsing on the floor, convulsing, slowly choking to death? The ER doctor had been definite that if I'd eaten the stems, leaves, roots, or seeds, I'd have most likely died. No cure for hemlock. But the clerk and I had just received a damn good scare. Not a fatal one, but enough. The note was pretty on point as a threat. No signature. But I wonder if they meant me to work out who it was, because I know who must have sent them. The Order of St. Franklin boys from the bar. All wearing those identical enamel pins. Hemlock pins. Those fuckers. I slam the heel of my hand into the steering wheel and grab my phone, and before I can even start to consider whether or not it's a good idea, I call Ryan. No half-hearted texts. Not this time. I want to hear his voice.
Macy.
He sounds warm and happy to hear from me.
Hey, thanks for calling.
You asshole, I say. I can feel the muscles aching in my jaw from the force of my anger. You asshole! I can't believe I almost fell for your aw shucks good dude bullshit. It throws him. A second or two goes by before he says, in a far more cautious tone,
What happened? What did I do?
You know what? I'm not even playing this game. You tell your Order of Saint Asshole friends to back off, you hear? I won't stop digging. I won't get scared off. You can tell them that from me.
Macy, what the hell is going on? Tell me what happened.
You damn well know. Or if you don't, ask your friends. I'm fine, by the way, but they could have gotten people killed. You realize that? You can tell them that, too. And I will find out what they had to do with Peg's death, with or without you. He's clearly agitated. I can hear his breathing on the phone. I can also hear wind. He's outside somewhere, maybe at the farm. I imagine him walking on those enormous grounds, and now I hate the mental image. I hate everything about it. If he associates with those douches, he's just as bad as they are, no matter how much I wanted to believe something different about him.
I don't know what they did, but I'm gonna find out,
he tells me. He sounds grim and determined about it.
Are you hurt?
I'm fine, I snap. I'm starting to cool off a little, and some strategic sense is coming back. I shouldn't have called angry. This isn't the smart play. I need Ryan. Ryan gives me access. He gets me where I need to be to find out more. I can't afford to alienate him completely. I'm not naturally manipulative, but I give it a try. I soften my tone and say, I'm sorry. I'm upset, that's all. If you didn't know...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
They sent a bouquet.
Flowers?
He sounds appropriately mystified.
Why would they do that?
No, I say, not flowers. These were your special flowers. Did you know they're poisonous, even to the touch? Not enough to be fatal, but...
What?
That's a sharp sound cutting through like a knife.
What the hell? They sent you hemlock?
A whole bouquet of it to the place I pick up the dead air mail, I say. I got rid of it, but gotta say, it doesn't make me feel good about your buddies, Ryan. Or you, if you're hanging around with them.
It's complicated,
He says.
I'll get into this. I'll find out who did it and punch them into yesterday.
He's quiet for a second.
Did you call the cops about it?
Now he sounds really concerned. Figures. Not sure there's a law against it, I say. There probably is, though. I'm thinking much more clearly now, and I still need Ryan. I need to calm down, and calm him down. Don't say anything to them. Let them think they scared me off.
Why? Macy, if this is getting weird.
It's way weird, I tell him. But if they're warning me, then that means I'm on to something, don't you think?
Maybe they just don't want you digging into their business. It probably has nothing to do with my mom.
True, but it almost certainly has something to do with Delilah, and I'm not about to give that up.
Listen, do you want me to tell them to back off?
No, don't do that. I'm thinking fast now. I roll down the car window. Even in the short time I've been pulled over, the atmosphere inside has gotten unbearably warm. A fresh breeze, scented with new-cut grass, washes in, and I breathe deep and try to steady myself. Let them think they made their point, but maybe try to find out who did it? Quietly. I can bring it up on the next podcast, so you can say you found out from there. As far as I know, Ryan's bros are unaware he knows me. I want to keep it that way as long as possible. I mean, it might have just been one person. And if so, I think, that would be the one I need to go after, because it'll be the one who's most scared by my podcast.
I will,
Ryan says.
Listen, are you okay? Really?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've got to go.
Be careful,
he says, and I hang up before he can say anything nicer. I don't want to like him anymore. I want to put space between us, and lots of it. I'm grateful for the harsh Arctic blast of my AC as I switch the engine on again. By the time I get home, I'm exhausted. I skip dinner, skip Reddit, skip everything in favor of a pint of ice cream and a movie I watch on my laptop. I fall asleep before I even hear Kara come in. 6. I spend the next morning in the library again, looking up horse doping, and then drifting into the opioid epidemic that has its hooks deep in Kentucky. I know I shouldn't be focusing on Delilah right now, but the closer I get to Peg Graham, the more it feels to me like it's somehow related. I just don't know how. I'm missing the pieces. My focus on my research lulls me out of watching the clock, and when my alarm buzzes to remind me it's time to go talk to Brandon McDonnell, I jump and hastily shove my notebooks and laptop and pens away. I head home, and as I turn toward the apartment, I see our police cruiser Stalker is back. The cop inside is a big, beefy man drinking a cup of coffee. When I stare at him, he nods at me. I'm dumping my laptop in my bedroom when I get a call from Officer Matthews. "Hi, it's Macy," I say, which is dumb because who else would be answering my cell, but she doesn't seem to notice.
Macy, hey, I wanted to let you know a couple of things. First, I looked over the file for your cousin's case. Have to tell you, I'm not seeing many red flags here at all. Your cousin's tox results show there was heroin cut with fentanyl in her system, enough to kill her, and there wasn't any sign of a struggle. Everything points to the same conclusion.
I feel hope shrivel up. But what about her phone?
Don't get your hopes up. Yes, her phone was active, but it never went to the hotel with her. Maybe she lost it and somebody else found it, but whatever happened, she didn't have it with her after she left the party. The phone stayed there, then went off on its own and shut down. Could be somebody swiped it at the party and sold it for parts.
Or somebody took it from her when they abducted her.
Macy.
It's possible.
There are no bruises, no defensive wounds, nothing to show she was ever restrained. I'm just not seeing it. I'm sorry.
I feel a little tingle of danger deep down. Officer Matthews has been so helpful right from the start. Helped me get records, now pulling my cousin's case. I don't like it all of a sudden. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
She sounds resigned. Were you there? There's a long beat of silence.
What do you mean?
At the hotel, when she was found. Were you there? If I look at those reports, am I going to find your name in them? I can tell by the even longer silence that I've thrown a wild punch, and it connected. I feel a wave of heat slow roll through my chest, and I grip the phone tighter. I will, won't I? You were there.
I was, she slowly admits. Look, don't get spun about this. I was one of the responding officers, that's all. It's not some conspiracy.
But that's exactly what it feels like. Exactly. You said her phone left the party.
Yes.
Where'd it go?
Macy.
I can fill out the forms and you'll have to tell me. She knows I'm right and she sighs.
Okay. The phone pinged off Lakeshore Drive, but we were never able to pin it down to any specific address. We tried looking at possible overlaps with people at the party, but we didn't find anything. A server could have picked it up and walked off with it, or a caterer, or, hell, I don't know, some random party girl. It's a dead end.
Okay, I say. I still need Officer Matthews on my side, and I'm careful to sound calm and resigned. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate that.
Macy, for the sake of your family, I think you should let this go. Obsessing over things like this doesn't let wounds heal. Think about your cousin's mom and dad, and let them have some peace, okay?
Okay, I echo. I don't mean it. I'll just focus on Peg's case. Thanks. Sorry if I sounded a little crazy there.
I understand.
Officer Matthews is all warm Southern charm now, and I don't believe it at all.
Listen, you call if you need anything else.
Okay, I repeat. Bye. I'm glad to be off the call. I sit down and stare at myself in the mirror. I've put on a little makeup, not much. I've flat-ironed my hair and left it loose around my shoulders. The prison rules say updos have to be taken down and searched anyway. I've got on a plain blue pantsuit and a white shirt, and I look like a professional. I am a professional, I tell myself. I slip on my shoes, grab my bag, and make sure I've got notepaper, pencils, batteries for the recorder, and, of course, the recorder itself. I make sure there's plenty of memory left on it, too. I'll have to try to wrangle them into letting me bring it into the visiting room, since I'm not coming in officially as press this time. It's worth a shot. In any case, I'll want to record some more audio at the site. That's as prepared as I can be, so I get in my car and start the long drive out to see Brandon McDonald. It's funny how when you're a passenger in a car, you don't notice as much about the world around you. You'd think it would be the opposite, that without the pressure of driving, you could pick up more details. But mostly what I remember from my previous trip out here is the interior of Ryan's truck, the comfortable seats, the smell and texture of the leather. Ryan and the way the flitting sunlight caught fire in his blonde hair. The way he smiled at me, easy and comfortable. Today, I notice everything outside the glass, which isn't much on the parkway. Once I get off the exit, I'm careful to hold my speedometer in check. Eddyville has the feel of speed trap town. I spot a couple of antique shops that might be fun to rummage through if I weren't so anxious. Maybe on the way back. Though if Brandon has something important to tell me, I'll probably be headed home like a bat out of hell to get my next episode recorded and edited. The road isn't that busy, though I pass what is clearly an inmate bus heading the opposite direction, filled with men staring straight ahead as if they don't want to be reminded of life outside. Off to work detail, I would guess. Or maybe being transferred. The other cars heading my direction are a match for my Toyota, as in, not great. Many contain multiple passengers, moms and kids mostly, on visiting day. I have to slow down as the road narrows and the cars converge. The turn-in for the castle-like prison is backed up, which I guess I should have anticipated, and I tap the steering wheel anxiously while I wait. I check my watch. I'm gonna be late. That only makes me more anxious. The beat-up Ford ahead of me finally creeps forward, and a small boy crawls up on the seat and makes a face at me through the window. I make a face right back, and he grins and sticks his tongue out. Right about then, his mom yells at him, and he returns to the car seat he's escaped from. I can't imagine the steel determination of these women, raising children on their own, working themselves into exhaustion every day and taking their free time to come all the way out here so their kids will know they have a dad. I'm not sure I'll ever be that strong. I can barely stand the weight as the cars inch through the gate. I stop at the security booth, and the guard says, "Name?" "Macy Walker." I show him my ID, which I have ready. "Inmate Brandon McDonald. I'm running late, so—"
"Your window's an hour," he says. "You get as much time as you have left."
He examines my ID and hands it back, marks something off his list, and presses a button. The gate lifts up, and I drive inside. Parking's already at a premium, and I end up near the back of the lot. I roll down my windows a crack, grab my bag, and race across the already hot open space toward the forbidding dark fairy tale building. My hour of time with Brandon has now shrunk to half an hour, and every minute I'm delayed, it gets smaller. I should have left earlier. I'm all too aware, as I join the migration of women and children toward the open gates, that the guard towers have snipers facing toward us, watching us pass. It feels like this place might swallow me whole. I can't imagine how it would feel to be marched in here in shackles, knowing I might never see the outside world again. Once inside, I find myself in another lane, waiting for the security process. I check my watch again. 25 minutes left in my appointment window. My thoughts turn to Brandon. Maybe by the time this is all over, I'll know exactly what did or didn't happen to Peg Graham. I get to the guard window, present my ID, and say, "Could you hurry, please? I've only got about 15 minutes left on my appointment time."
"Then you should have gotten here earlier."
He does a double take when he looks at the list to see who I'm visiting, then leans back and gestures to someone else. He hands my ID off, which I don't like, and says,
"Wait over there."
He leans forward with a dry creak of his chair and indicates a corner near the heavily armored entry door. "But the time—"
"Just wait."
I go and lean against the wall where he's pointed and try not to fidget. The moms have collapsed into chairs, and the kids are either sitting passively playing video games, reading the battered books that are laid out on the tables in the waiting room, or running around in groups. I wonder how that affects a child, to have an established group of playmates they only hang out with in prison. The door cracks open, and a woman in a pantsuit almost exactly like mine, only in gray, steps out. She's evidently immune from the updo search because she has her dark brown hair secured in a tight, uncompromising bun at the back of her head. "Miss Walker?" she asks, and firmly closes the door behind her. I flick on my recorder and cup it in my palm, hoping she doesn't notice, then push off the wall and nod. "Let's sit," she says. "You have my ID?" I don't know why I'm obsessing about it, but I feel naked without it. She hands it over, and I slide it back into my wallet. "What's this about?"
"How exactly do you know Brandon McDonald?"
"I don't. I'm a journalist. He asked me to come today. Look, I've still got 10 minutes.
"I'm very sorry. Inmate McDonald committed suicide this morning."
I listen to the words, but they don't exactly make sense. I try to put them in context. "Wait, he's dead?"
"Yes,"
she says patiently, as if this isn't her first such notification. It probably isn't.
"Time of death was 6:15 this morning."
But he called me. He said he wanted to talk."
"I understand that. I can't explain why he chose to do this. He didn't leave a note."
No. This is all wrong. How did he— I'm not sure I want to know. I'm imagining the man's face the last time I spoke to him, the way he warned me off.
"He used his pants to form a noose that he anchored on his bed frame," the woman says. "He just leaned forward. It was very quiet. Again, I'm sorry."
I don't believe it. Not for a second. Brandon McDonald wanted to talk to me. He reached out to do it. He had things to tell me, important things about Peg Graham's murder. Somebody had made damn sure he'd never get the chance. "This is wrong," I say out loud. "He couldn't have. You need to look into this."
"There's already been an investigation," she tells me. "The sheriff's department has jurisdiction here, and they sent out 2 detectives. It's been declared a suicide."
She gestures to the chairs.
Take as long as you need, but I'm unable to help you any further, Miss Walker." With that, she's off to another woman, one with a toddler squirming on her lap. I hope she's not telling her the same news. But no, the woman just gets up without comment, and I watch her follow the Hispanic woman through the entry door, on her way to her visit. I feel numb, let down. And yes, I feel angry. Angry at Brandon, not for committing suicide, because I don't believe for a hot Kentucky second that's what he did, but for not seeing this coming. He should have been more careful. If he'd managed to get his statement to me, surely that would have protected him. Someone had come into his cell. Someone had choked him and rigged up that nonsense to pass it off as a suicide. And of course the police bought it, if they weren't in on it. I realized that without any thought, I'm walking. I'm already down the steps into the baking, humid morning, feet crunching on the white gravel path. There are some inmates out behind the fences, and I can feel them looking at me, but they don't say anything. The morning's quiet, except for the dull hiss of wind through the trees and some bright, falsely cheerful bird calls. I get to my car, unlock it, and start it up. The AC blasts like a furnace for a minute before cooling again, and I just sit and think while the car shudders and idles. I've heard that in a pinch, the backseat of a car makes a good makeshift sound booth, so I lower the seat beside mine and climb back there. I take out my digital recorder and start talking. Brandon McDonald killed Peg Graham. That's been an accepted fact for 18 years until I started this show, and without intending to, began picking at the seams of this open and shut case. I even faced down Brandon McDonald a few episodes ago and demanded the real story. You know what he said. He continued to claim he did it. But the McDonald family in Ireland came into money around the time of Brandon's arrest. His reasons for the crime wave were, and remain, vague. Still, I was prepared to accept his claims, at least for now, until he called just a few days ago and asked me to come back to prison. He had new information for me. He had things to say. I'm sitting in the parking lot at Kentucky State Penitentiary, and this morning, Brandon McDonald is dead. Listeners, we need to take a minute. We need to think about this. Either Brandon lured me up here only to decide at the last minute that he'd rather be dead than tell me the truth, or someone made that decision for him. Though I've been assured that an investigation took place in just 4 hours and the verdict of suicide is going into the records. So, either I'm on the track of a killer and he's just killed again, or I've hounded a guilty man into taking his own life. My voice shakes a little. I pause and swallow. I'm not sure how this audio's going to come off. Either way, I have a burden to find out the truth. Like it or not, this isn't over. Welcome to Dead Air, where M is for midnight, Mackenzie, and murder. Let's get to work. I hope you'll stay with me and help me find the truth. In the meantime, keep breathing.
You're listening to Dead Air by Rachel Caine, starring Lynn Norris. Produced by Realm, your portal to another world. Realm, listen away. Dead Air is created by Gwenda Bond and written by Gwenda Bond, Rachel Caine, and Carrie Ryan. It is produced by Julian Yap and executive produced by Molly Barton. Audio production, sound design, editing, and theme music by Amanda Rose Smith.